Is there a good basketball team inside of the 15 and 51 Utah Jazz? Maybe. How? We dig in next on Locked On Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers. There'll be a bunch of those today, and hopefully making it better, way better, to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in. And if you like the show during the show, stop for a minute and give us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it. If you just for a minute go, wow, that was pretty good, then do that. If you never think that, well, then I suck. On today's show, we will look at the biggest problem that's preventing the Jazz and the Jazz need to rectify in the future. We will look at how the youngsters played in a much more settled environment last night with everyone else playing around them. 3 big threes by Memphis last night that blew the game open. I'm going to give Memphis credit. Those are wins by Memphis, but how did it happen? And what could have the Jazz done defensively? And maybe the answer on a few of them is nothing, which is really interesting just to how hard it is to defend in this league. We're going to start with the idea that this actually might have a half-decent basketball team inside of it somewhere, which is kind of crazy. Today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. FanDuel, right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. The Jazz are 15 and 51. They're terrible, right? Absolutely positively terrible. They're the 23rd ranked offense, the 28th ranked defense. They're last in the NBA in turnovers. They're last in the league at forcing turnovers. Okay, that's pretty terrible. They're the 5th worst record, the 5th worst differential in the NBA, 2nd worst record in the NBA. This team is all terrible. Yeah, or maybe not. Like maybe that was what was evident last night. And maybe that's what actually some of the data shows. So when the big 4, and they're not that big, are on the floor, Collin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler. Okay? The medium 4, the 4 best we got, whatever you want to call them. Our differential is plus 8.6. What the heck does that mean, David? If we could play those 4 guys with any other player for 48 minutes a night, not ever make a substitution, and play at that same level for the entire night, we would be the 4th best team in the NBA. Okay, that's not realistic, but just to put it together, the Oklahoma City Thunder are plus 13. The Cleveland Cavaliers are plus 12. The Boston Celtics are plus 9, and Memphis, who we played last night, has the 4th best differential in the NBA, and they're plus 6. So if the Jazz somehow had Collin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler, or let's just put it this way, in 400 possessions this year, which is not a lot, in 536 possessions, which is not a lot, when we have Collin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler on the floor. So if we have all of them, we start the night plus 9. So is there a half-decent basketball team inside of here somewhere? Maybe. Because if you could get to the point where in all other minutes you were even, you would be the 4th best team in the NBA. Now, there's a butterfly effect here that should not be denied, which is that, teams let up and play differently, and when they're up 16 at the half, they don't come out in the 3rd quarter with the same vigor, and so therefore, some of this might be a little misleading. Last night, we closed with Collin Sexton, Cody Williams, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler. It's the first time that group ever played together. With Keontae George is the point guard. We're +9. With Isaiah Collier as the point guard, it's only been 73 possessions. We've barely played together. We're +27. That will lessen. But it's an interesting thing. With those 4 guys on the floor, our offense is in the 84th percentile, and our defense is in the 79th percentile. It's pretty good. We're an unnaturally good shooting team, okay? When you ever look at these numbers, you look at them and you try to say, well, what number doesn't make sense? The Jazz are in the 98th percentile in shooting when John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and Collin Sexton are on the floor together. Now, partially because they get 38% of all of their misses as offensive rebounds. Okay, and you're probably putting those back up and in, and now you shoot way better. That's pretty interesting. That's where this league is going a little bit. The offense, with those 4 guys on the floor together, is in the 72nd percentile. But they're in the 99th percentile of the amount of putbacks per miss they get. They get 34 points per 100 missed field goals when those 4 guys are on the floor. That's a big, big, big deal. Because if you're doing that so much more than everyone else, like, that matters. And that's where this league is going. We're going to touch on that in the 3rd segment today. I'm going to dig into this a little bit more. But the league average is 21 per 100 possessions. Okay, well, they're not going to be on the floor for 100 possessions. So you got to, adjust this number a little bit. But if they are on the floor for, say, 30 or 40 possessions a night, and in those 30 or 40 possessions, instead of you divide it by, 0.4, so you're still getting 4 or 5 more points a night just on offensive rebounding. That's a big deal. That's what Memphis and Houston are living by right now. And that's where this actually might be a half-decent basketball team with that type of size and length. Size is taking over this league right now. Now, they're horrendous in the turnover game. They're in the 0 percentile offensively, turning it over 20% of the time. And they garner turnovers in those circumstances by accident. It's so bad. So it's not perfect. They force turnovers 9.5% of the time. It's in the 1 percentile. And they force turnovers. But their rebounding advantage, and again, this will be the 3rd segment today. Their rebounding advantage is so significant. 38% offensive rebounds. They only allow 21% defensive rebounds that they survive. But here it is. Inside of this 15 and 51 basketball team are these 4 players who, when they play together, team's pretty good. What's interesting about this that I would just throw out there, and I don't know how far you go with this, but let's say we have crappy lottery luck and we get the 5th pick. And you take the 5th pick and you trade it for Trae Young. Now, you'd have to give up some of this money to get that done. So it wouldn't be the same thing. But you look at this and you're like, well, maybe if we added a really good point guard or somebody who actually, and then we could fill in the backside of the bench and let the young guys be maybe there's actually something decent inside of here if you need to pivot. If you don't Cooper Flag it. If you don't Dylan Harper it. Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey's career are over at Rutgers. If you missed it last night, I think they lost to USC. Either USC or UCLA. So it's an interesting little thing. I also think this might be a tremendous tribute to Will Hardy and his coaching staff. Because if we just take an outside, I love Collin Sexton. John Collins has won me over. I think Walker's terrific and Lauri's fabulous. I'm in. They're my guys. But if I take an outside perspective, if you go to the Ringer top 100 NBA list, I don't think any of these guys are on it other than Lauri. Now, do I think that might be wrong? Sure. But that's because I've watched them bust their ass all year, and so I believe in them. But on the other end of things, Lauri Markkanen comes in as the 48th best player in the NBA. So you have a barely top 50 player in the NBA and nobody else in the top 100. And somehow this coaching staff's gotten that group to be a plus 8.6 and the equivalent of the 4th best team in the league with the 84th percentile offense and the 79th percentile defense. Maybe what the real story is that when Will Hardy has some just viable pieces, they're pretty good. I think the most encouraging thing here is actually the defensive number. Because our defense sucks. and it's hard to watch. But it's so littered with young kids who have no idea what to do, or the guys that make mistakes, that maybe it's not as bad as it seems. And we're 30th in the league in half-court defense. Okay, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like that's the truth. So you see the fact that with 4 guys who actually know how to play the game, 3 in Walker, and Walker now knows, you're in the 79th percentile. That's pretty encouraging for the long term of the franchise. All of this is pretty. This to me is maybe the most encouraging thing. Do I know if Isaiah Collier's going to be good? Nope. Do I know if Kyle Filipowski is going to be able to be Santi Aldama? Nope. Do I know if Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be better than Gary Trent? Nope. Do I know if Keontae George has got? Nope. But this to me might be the most encouraging thing I've seen all year, that when those guys are on the floor, Will Hardy and his coaching staff are able to put together a viable team that actually not only is viable, but in the starting lineup against other starting lineups has been plus 8.6. That to me, the most encouraging thing for long-term for the Utah Jazz this season. All right, 3 threes late in the game. I don't really know what the Jazz should have done differently, which tells you a little bit of how brutally difficult it is to guard in the NBA. It's next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at TurboTax. This message is sponsored by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. And now Taxes is matching with TurboTax Expert, who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible, fill every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, so you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full-service real-time updates. Only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. I want to welcome a new sponsor to Locked On. We're certainly excited to have them. It's Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Start using Monarch Money. You'll realize how much you're spending on food delivery. In fact, that's exactly what happened to one of our guys on the sales staff. He suddenly realized they were delivering their food every night. That was their cost. He's like, yeah, we can get in the car. All in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Easy collaboration, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at Monarch Money to get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year with Monarch Money. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. You're awesome. Appreciate you being with us. 15-51, and you're still here. You're awesome. I cannot thank you enough. Our numbers are great, actually. I said the other day our numbers are down a little. They're down a tiny bit, and then I went and looked at them, and they're actually not. We're like still having, they're actually, I think we were the 7th most listened to audio show on Locked On the other day. Like, what? During NFL free agency? You guys are amazing. So thank you. Tell your friends. I always say this. Tell your friends so that you actually have someone you can talk to. Because if you're talking to someone who doesn't listen to this show, they're probably dumb. I got a little spice to me today. All right, I want to watch 3 plays with you. And actually, you might know better than I do what you think the right play here is. I mean, I really like... all right, to share audio, share tab or screen instead. Okay, I don't want to share audio, so that's perfect. Okay. So let's watch these 3 plays together and try to figure out, if you see me looking to my left, my screen is to the left, what the Jazz should have done. These are the 2 Luke Kennard threes against the zone and the Ja Morant three that basically was the game winner. Luke Kennard shoots 45% from three. Luke Kennard might be the best catch and shoot guy in the NBA. You do not want to leave Luke Kennard open. This is like when this happens during the game the other night, my reaction is like, are you beeping kidding me? How did we possibly leave Luke Kennard open? If you look at guys in the NBA that take, I think, three or more catch and shoots a game, which is 163 guys, like Luke Kennard is the second best catch and shoot guy in the NBA at 50%. Taurean Prince is the best at 51%. Kennard is second. Karl-Anthony Towns is third. Nikola Jokic is fourth, which is stupid. Norman Powell's fifth. Peyton Pritchard sixth. Larry Nance Jr. has been hurt, is seventh. Nikhil Alexander, then Harrison Barnes. Okay? So, and then Grayson Allen, and then Malik Beasley, three former Jazz players. So you do not, under any circumstance, want to leave Luke Kennard. He's the second best catch and shoot three-point shooter in the NBA. So how does it happen? Zone defense. Where's Kennard? He's right here. One. So let's back it up just one quick second there, and we'll get the first play. So the Memphis does a nice job here. They run a little pick right here. And Collin, I don't want to put it on him, but I think almost forgets he's in a zone because Cody Williams has this covered. So Collin's responsibility is probably to come back and take care of Desmond Bane. But Collin goes with Brendan Clark, who's coming to Walker. So I think that's where there's a clear mistake here that really, frankly, Collin should be going back to Bane and then Markkanen's going to Kennard. But instead, now Collin reacts. Collin's got to go straight to the corner. He does in a second. He kind of points that direction, and Kennard hits it, and he's fouled. Okay, that was nice. Here's real time. Boom, boom, pretty quick. How hard is it to guard in the NBA? But if we watch it again, we're at the top, high pick and roll against a 2-3 zone, just for those of you on audio to make sure it makes sense. And they set the pick on the inside of the 2-3 zone on Collin, and Collin tries to fight through it. At this point, I think Collin's got to give up on the play, get back to Bane, and then give the Grizzlies credit. The other action the Grizzlies are running in here, they're running a 2-3 against a 2-3 zone. Desmond Bane comes from the bottom and comes up and fills the spot Morant just left, which is really good basketball spacing, gets the Jazz perplexed, and Luke Kennard, the second best three-point shooter in the NBA on catch and shoots, is wide open and gets himself a three. And that sucked because that kind of put us in the... Now, it happens a second time. Again, this one's a little bit give the Grizzlies some credit. They do this pretty well. Collin misses a three, gets it back from Walker, and we're ahead. And now the Jazz lead it 115, 114 with 116 to play. And they come up the floor against the zone, and the Jazz kind of are in a 2-3. Collin's up in front of it. John Collins is showing, and this is really interesting. So at this moment, Desmond Bane has the ball in the right wing. Jaws at the top. Brendan Clark's going to play in the middle of the floor again. Luke Kennard's in the left corner. And Scottie Pippen Jr. is in the right corner. And Scottie Pippen Jr. is not a good shooter. And the Jazz get caught in the exact same thing they got caught in a moment before, where Collin kind of overplays on a pick. This time, Collin does come back. John Collins closes on Bane, which is good because Bane's close to a 40% catch and shoot three-point shooter. And Desmond Bane, Scottie Pippen is, as we like to say in the league, butt naked open. And Desmond Bane doesn't pass to him because he knows he's going to shoot. I love this. This is the subtle sign of a really good team and how smart a player Desmond Bane is. No offense to Scottie Pippen, but that's not who you want to have shooting right there. Scottie Pippen is not that good a shooter. So you do not want Scottie Pippen taking that shot. And so Desmond Bane literally holds it and goes right back to Ja Morant. Now the Jazz reset their zone. It's a 2-3. Cody and Collin at the top. John Collins, Walker Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen in the bottom. And Kennard's in the far left corner. And this is pretty good basketball by the Grizzlies. So Bane comes to the top. Clark shifts to the top to come set a pick again. Sexton's playing up top, ball pressuring like he's supposed to on the zone. And Luke Kennard goes and runs the baseline and switches sides. Bane, who's so smart, veers out to the left side of the floor. And Clark comes with him. So now you have Ja Morant on the left wing. Lauri's kind of marked to him. Cody Williams is guarding Desmond Bane. Collin Sexton is, I think, over too far again. Scottie Pippen feeds up to the top. Sexton reacts correctly, gets on the correct side. He's at the nail to cut off a drive. And Clark sets a pick on Cody Williams, which engages Collin Sexton. They pass to the top to Scottie Pippen. John Collins is kind of caught in no man's land. They rotate, and I guess Walker Kessler is supposed to come out of the middle to go get Luke Kennard, but Luke Kennard is zip code open again. I mean, I don't have a good answer on this one. Like, Collin gets caught over on the other side of the floor, kind of like right here. Collin's where he's supposed to be, guarding Desmond Bane, working Desmond Bane, and then Collin gets caught on that side of the floor, but he gets back, and now he's the one who's got to cut off the Bane drive. This is just really good basketball by Memphis, and Desmond Bane's at control of it, and he's really, really good. And then they got a 50% catch and shoot, three-point shooter that busts us. And the final one, I'm actually just going to let you see in real time because I just don't have a good answer for this one at all. Ja Morant brings the ball up the floor. We'll back it up a little bit. So Jazz don't score. Lauri missed a three. It's a 2-point game. There's 28 seconds left. Grizzlies 117, Jazz 115. And I don't think we're in the zone anymore, but we're kind of in the zone. Cody Williams guarding Ja. Brandon Clark flashes into the middle off what was a fake flare screen. Lauri gets beat backdoor. Walker cuts off Bane brilliantly. Lauri's probably got to get back to Clark here. And because he doesn't, Cody Williams sucks in to take care of Clark. And Bane throws it back out to Ja Morant, who's wide open. And Ja Morant, who is shooting 17% from three since the All-Star break, hits the three. He's now 7 of 9 in fourth quarter threes in the same time period where he's shooting 17% overall. If we watch this one more time, I just think it's also this, to me, I think, is like the minute you have an advantage in this league, it's so hard to get back defensively. So Lauri's where he's supposed to be, shading over to cut off Ja's drive. They set a fake pick. Lauri's now defending, keeping an eye on Clark in the paint. Walker's got him, though. Lauri probably should not be that worried about this. And Bane beats Lauri backdoor. Clark finds him. Walker steps in. Lauri's got to get back to Clark immediately. Cody Williams, to his credit, sees it, leaves Ja Morant to go help around the rim, and then by the time it goes back out, Ja's wide open and he hits the three. That one, I think, again, I could be wrong. Like, Lauri can see me tomorrow and say, hey, dude, that wasn't my bad. I think. But I think that's also a sign of just like, wow, you make one subtle mistake in this league and it's over fast. There is a new in vogue thing in the league, and I'll tell you about it next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Also, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. March Madness is here. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get into the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 in extra bonus bets to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, even who's cutting down the nets. Pick your favorites. Get your eye on a few underdogs this year. FanDuel will make it easy for you to back them with the spreads, totals, and game props. staying in the action. You can do it every day. There's always something to bet on, plus live betting during games. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get into the college hoops action all day long. I have a really cool announcement. I guess this is kind of leaking out, so I will share with you. Locked On and Amazon Fire TV are putting on a massive, huge March Madness specialty shows, about 10 episodes, available at Amazon Fire TV, a men's and women's tournament breakdowns, and the analyst expert on the desk for the men's tournament is one Gordon Hayward. So Locked On has hired Gordon Hayward. Gordon, along with Monique Billings, WNBA player, still playing professionally, plays for the Golden State Valkyries, will be on the men's decks along with Isaac Shade of Locked On College Basketball, hosted by Kylan Mills. The women's show will have Howard Megdal of Locked On Women's College Basketball, Monique Billings, Jordan Robinson, a rising star in the business, all along with Kylan Mills as well. We'll also have a specialty expert desk hosted by Tanitra Batiste, and the show will give you the local experts breaking down their teams plus the desk in a way that no other March Madness show will. So make sure you catch it. Bracket breakdown, probably a little secret for you to get a better bracket. So grab that. It comes out on Sunday on Amazon Fire TV. I'll send follow me on Twitter and all those at dlock09@gmail.com, and I'll have those for you. There's a little something going on in the league. I need to do some more research on it. We'll probably talk about it more. But something is happening where, because the math game, I think, is so well figured out, and I think that the standard deviation of how teams shoot is getting narrower. So the third best team in the league, the Milwaukee Bucks, shoots 56.8% effective field goal percentage, and the third worst team shoots 51.8%. So there's only a 5% difference in effective field goal percentage over a night from the third best to the third worst. So Denver's a little better, and Cleveland's having a historic year. And Charlotte and Orlando are horrendous. Because of that, the in vogue thing that everyone's talking about is the possession battle. It's literally, you can overcome that 3% difference or 5% difference between 56.8 and 51.5, frankly, if you go get 2 or 3 extra possessions a night. So offensive rebounding is way up at 28%, and it's the possession battle. It is why the Jazz, number one thing that has to get fixed in the offseason is how they take care of the ball and how little they force turnovers. The Jazz turn the forced turnovers 11.5% of all possessions, last in the league. And they turn it over 17.5 possessions, the most in the league. Well, on average, you have about 100 possessions a night. So the Jazz are turning it over on average about 17 times. And the Jazz are only getting 11.5 if we just take it as flat numbers. There's actually whatever the number is. I can find the number. It's about that. So the Jazz are -6 in the turnover department on every single game. Well, the shooting difference I just gave you from the best to the worst team is 10 points. So the Jazz turnover differential, right? So if you take, and it's actually not even that much, frankly. It's a little less. It's because it wouldn't be 100 shots in a game. You're taking about 75, 80 shots in a game. And so it's about 7 points. The Jazz turnover differential is almost as wide as the third worst shooting team to the third best shooting team. That's how much of a disadvantage we're playing at every night because of our turnover differential. It seriously has to be rectified. If on the whole first point of this conversation, is there a decent team inside here? No, actually not. Because if your turnover differential is what the Jazz is on a nightly basis, you're playing from so far behind every single night that probably not a very good team hitting inside 15 and 51. Now, if you fix that, maybe. you have to make it all up in offensive rebounding. We've generally done a pretty good job of that. I'm not sure that you can really do that every night. But that's the turnover, the possession battle is talked about more and more in vogue than it's ever been right now. I would just give you that thought. The Jazz garner on a given night a rebound and a half more than the average team in the league. And then they defensive rebound. This is not the perfect way to do it, but it's easier. About half more. So they get about 2 extra rebounds per game. But they turn the ball over 17 and a half times a game and force almost no turnovers. So it is literally such an incredible disadvantage on a nightly basis that the Jazz, it's the answer to the first question is actually no. Like that simple. You cannot win when they want to win. They cannot win with this. It's too much to overcome. It's the equivalent of having the 3rd best shooting team and turning it into the 3rd worst shooting team. So it's the number one thing that either via coaching, roster building, or player intensity, or player changing the way players play, the Jazz have to change in the offseason. Or sometime in the next few offseasons. That is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Follow me on all the socials at DLock09. Grab the Amazon Fire TV show. Follow our newsletter. We have so much stuff for you at LockedOnDaily.com. And if you have not subscribed or followed the show yet, please do. And did you like anything today? Because if you did, a 5-star review would be super cool, or a nice comment or a thumbs up on YouTube. We now send you the first ever national 24/7 NBA channel on YouTube, Locked On NBA. It had a huge month, by the way. Or check out Locked On NBA's Game Night, every game, every night.